The third phone call this week came at 11:30 p.m., and I could hear Morgan's laughter echoing from the kitchen like broken glass against concrete. She was talking to Trey again, her ex-boyfriend who apparently couldn't grasp the concept that some things should stay buried. I sat in my home office, pretending to review code for my latest IT consulting project, but really I was listening to every word drifting through our supposedly soundproof walls. Morgan's voice carried that particular tone she used when she wanted to sound mysterious and desirable, the same voice that had hooked me 6 years ago at that corporate mixer downtown. "Oh my God, Trey, you're so bad," she giggled, and I could practically see her twirling her blonde hair around her finger like she did when she was trying to be cute. You can't say things like that to a married woman. But she wasn't hanging up. She never hung up. I closed my laptop and walked to the kitchen, my bare feet silent on the hardwood floors of our suburban home. Morgan stood by the granite island, still in her real estate blazer from showing houses all day, phone pressed to her ear like it was surgically attached. She looked up when I entered, her green eyes flashing with something between guilt and defiance, the kind of look that said she knew exactly what she was doing and dared me to call her on it. "I should go," she said into the phone, but made no move to end the call. "My husband's giving me one of his looks." I could hear Trey's voice through the speaker, that cocky laugh I remembered from the one time I'd met him at a party. "Tell Eric I said hi, and that he's a lucky man." Morgan smiled, not at me, but at whatever game she thought she was playing. "I'll tell him. Talk soon, okay?" Soon was apparently the key word in their relationship. She finally hung up and set the phone on the counter with deliberate casualness, like she was daring me to make this into something bigger than it was. "Working late again?" she asked, opening the refrigerator and pulling out a bottle of white wine. She poured herself a generous glass without offering me any. "Third call this week," I said, keeping my voice level. From Trey. "We're friends, Eric. Just friends." She took a sip of wine and leaned against the counter, studying me like I was a difficult client she needed to manage. "You know that?" "Friends don't usually call at 11:30 at night." "Maybe your friends don't." She laughed, and there was something sharp in it. "Trey and I have history. We understand each other." "Maybe less contact would be healthier," I suggested, trying to keep the conversation reasonable, "for our marriage." The laugh that came out of her mouth was like a slap across the face. It was dismissive, condescending, and absolutely final. "I won't cut ties with my ex just because you ask," she said, setting down her wine glass hard enough that some of it sloshed onto the counter. "You're being insecure and controlling, Eric. It's not attractive." She stood there in our kitchen, in the house we'd bought together, wearing the confidence of someone who thought she held all the cards. Her perfectly styled hair caught the light from the pendant lamps we'd picked out together at that expensive store downtown. She looked beautiful and untouchable, and absolutely certain that I would back down like I always did. Instead, I smiled. "Deal," I said. The word hung in the air between us like smoke. Morgan's expression shifted from smug confidence to confusion, her eyebrows drawing together in that little frown she got when a client threw her a curveball. "Deal?" she repeated. "You won't cut ties with your ex just because I ask," I said, my smile growing wider. "And I won't cut ties with anyone just because you ask either." She opened her mouth to respond, probably to explain why that was different, why her situation was special and mine was controlling. But I was already walking away, leaving her standing in our kitchen with her wine and her confusion and her phone that would probably ring again tomorrow night. As I headed back to my office, I heard my phone buzz with a text message. I pulled it out and saw Jessica's name on the screen, Morgan's friend from her real estate office, the one with the dark hair and the way of looking at me at parties like she was seeing something Morgan missed. "Coffee tomorrow?" the message read. I looked back toward the kitchen, where I could hear Morgan muttering to herself and probably texting Trey about what a difficult husband she had to deal with. Then I typed back, "Absolutely. How about that place on 5th Street, 10 a.m.? Her response came back in seconds. "Perfect. Can't wait." I set my phone down and opened my laptop again, but I wasn't thinking about code anymore. I was thinking about deals and how Morgan had just agreed to one she didn't understand. In the kitchen, her phone was already ringing again. Jessica was already waiting when I arrived at Grind Coffee on 5th Street, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups steaming in front of her. She'd chosen the spot perfectly, visible from the street, but intimate enough for conversation. She wore a soft blue sweater that brought out her eyes and jeans that fit her like they were custom-made. "I ordered for you," she said as I sat down, sliding one of the cups toward me. "Large coffee, black. I pay attention." "Thanks." I took a sip and realized she was right. She did pay attention. In all the office parties and dinner gatherings Morgan dragged me to, Jessica had been watching, learning, remembering small details that my own wife couldn't be bothered with. "So," she said, leaning forward with her chin propped on her hand. "What's the occasion?" "Not that I'm complaining. I've been hoping you'd ask me to coffee for about 2 years now." The admission hung between us like a confession. Jessica had always been flirty at parties, the kind of harmless flirting that married people do at social gatherings, safe because everyone knows the boundaries. Except now, I was wondering if it had ever really been harmless. 2 years? I asked. She laughed, a sound completely different from Morgan's sharp laughter the night before. Jessica's laugh was warm, genuine, like she was sharing a secret she'd been keeping too long. "God, yes. Do you remember that Christmas party at Amanda's house? You were wearing that dark green sweater, and Morgan spent the entire night on her phone with some client. I kept thinking how if I were married to you, I'd never waste an evening like that." She reached across the table and touched my arm, her fingers warm through my shirt sleeve. "You looked so lonely, Eric, even in a room full of people." I should have pulled my arm away, should have made some excuse about being a devoted husband and left. Instead, I found myself leaning into her touch, remembering what it felt like to have someone actually see me. "Morgan doesn't think I'm lonely," I said. "She thinks I'm controlling." "For wanting your wife's attention?" Jessica's eyes flashed with something like anger. "That's not controlling. That's normal. Any woman would be lucky to have a husband who actually cares where she is and who she's talking to." She moved her chair closer, close enough that I could smell her perfume, something light and floral that was nothing like Morgan's heavy, expensive scent. "Can I tell you something?" she asked, lowering her voice. "Something I probably shouldn't say?" I nodded, even though I knew I was crossing a line that couldn't be uncrossed. "I think Morgan doesn't deserve you," she said, her fingers still on my arm. "I've watched her at parties, seen how she treats you, like you're just there, like you're furniture she's gotten used to." The words hit harder because they were true. When had Morgan stopped seeing me? When had I become background noise in my own marriage? "She laughs at me," I said, surprising myself with the admission. "Last night, when I asked her to maybe talk to her ex less, she actually laughed, like the idea of considering my feelings was ridiculous." Jessica's grip on my arm tightened. "That's not okay, Eric. That's not how you treat someone you love." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of unspoken possibilities settling between us. Around us, the coffee shop buzzed with normal morning activity. People grabbing their caffeine fix before work, students typing on laptops, the comfortable rhythm of ordinary life. But nothing about this felt ordinary. "What are you thinking?" Jessica asked softly. I looked at her, really looked at her. Jessica had always been beautiful, but in a quieter way than Morgan. Where Morgan was all sharp angles and dramatic gestures, Jessica was soft curves and genuine smiles. She was the kind of woman who remembered how you liked your coffee and noticed when you looked lonely at parties. "I'm thinking," I said carefully, "that Morgan made it clear she won't cut ties with people just because I ask. So maybe I shouldn't cut ties with people just because she might not like it." Jessica's eyes widened slightly, understanding flickering across her features. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" "I'm saying maybe we should have coffee more often." The smile that spread across her face was like sunrise. "I would love that, Eric. I would absolutely love that." She pulled out her phone and opened Instagram, angling it toward both of us. "Selfie? For posterity?" Before I could object, she'd snapped the photo, both of us leaning close together, coffee cups in frame, her hand still on my arm. She typed quickly, "Best coffee date ever. Some people know how to treat a girl right. Coffee with a gentleman. Just so perfect morning." "Jessica." "What?" she asked innocently, hitting post. "It's just coffee between friends, right? Morgan can't object to that." My phone buzzed almost immediately. A notification that Jessica had tagged me in her post. Then another buzz, someone had liked it, then another. "Morgan's going to see this," I said. Jessica shrugged, but her eyes sparkled with mischief. "Good. Maybe she'll realize what she's taking for granted." As if summoned by our conversation, my phone rang. Morgan's name appeared on the screen. "Answer it," Jessica whispered, leaning back but not moving her chair away. "I want to hear this." I swiped to accept the call. "Hey, Morgan." "What the hell is this Instagram post?" Her voice was sharp, cutting through the coffee shop's ambient noise. "Jessica posted a picture of you two at coffee." "Just having coffee with a friend," I said, keeping my voice level. "You know Jessica, from your office." "I know who Jessica is. What I don't know is why my husband is having cozy coffee dates with her and posting about it on social media." Jessica covered her mouth to hide her laughter, her eyes dancing with delight at Morgan's obvious irritation. It's just coffee, Morgan. Between friends. I thought you understood about maintaining friendships. There was a pause on the other end of the line, and I could practically hear the wheels turning in Morgan's head as she tried to figure out how to object without sounding hypocritical. That's different, she finally said. How? Another pause. Longer this time. It just is, Eric. Jessica is... She's always had a thing for you. Everyone knows it. I looked across the table at Jessica, who was nodding enthusiastically and pointing to herself with both hands. Well, I said, I guess that's her business, just like your friendship with Trey is your business. Eric, I have to go, Morgan. I'm having coffee with a friend, and it would be rude to spend the whole time on the phone. I hung up before she could respond and set my phone face down on the table. Jessica was grinning like she'd just won the lottery. Oh my God, that was perfect. Did you hear how flustered she got? She's not used to not being in control, I said. Well, maybe it's time she learned. Jessica raised her coffee cup in a toast. To new friendships. I clinked my cup against hers. To new friendships. As we finished our coffee, Jessica kept the conversation light, asking about my work, telling funny stories from the real estate office, making me laugh in a way I hadn't in months. But underneath the casual chat, there was an undercurrent of possibility, of doors opening that had been locked for too long. When we finally got up to leave, she hugged me goodbye, a long, warm embrace that lasted just a few seconds too long to be purely friendly. Same time next week? She asked, her arm still around my neck. Absolutely. As I walked back to my car, my phone buzzed with notifications. More likes on Jessica's post, comments from mutual friends, and 3 missed calls from Morgan. I didn't call her back. That evening, Morgan was waiting for me when I got home from work, sitting at our kitchen island with her laptop open and a glass of wine that was clearly not her first. Her face had that tight, controlled look she got when she was trying very hard not to lose her temper. We need to talk, she said without looking up from her screen. About what? I asked, though I knew exactly what. About you having coffee dates with my friends and posting about it on social media like some kind of teenager. I opened the refrigerator and pulled out a beer, taking my time with the bottle opener. It was just coffee, Morgan. You said yourself that Jessica and I are friends. That's not the point? Then what is the point? She finally looked at me, her green eyes flashing with frustration. The point is that you're doing this to get back at me for Trey, and it's childish. I took a sip of my beer and studied her face. Even angry, Morgan was beautiful. The kind of beautiful that had made me feel lucky for 6 years. But beauty without substance was just decoration, and I was starting to see the difference. I'm not doing anything to get back at you, I said. I'm just not cutting ties with friends because you ask me to. That's not the same thing, isn't it? Before she could answer, my phone chimed with a notification. Instagram message from Amanda, another of Morgan's friends, the wild one who posted bikini photos from every vacation and flirted with bartenders for free drinks. Hey, handsome, the message read. Saw your coffee date with Jess. Made me jealous. When do I get some of that attention? I looked up at Morgan, who was watching me with narrowed eyes. Who's texting you? Amanda, I said, holding up my phone so she could see the screen. Morgan's face went pale, then red. What does she want? She wants to get drinks sometime. I typed back quickly. How about tomorrow night? That new place downtown? Amanda's response was immediate. Yes, can't wait. Wear something attractive. I showed Morgan the exchange, watching her expression shift from anger to something like panic. You're not seriously going to have drinks with Amanda, she said. Why not? She's your friend. You've always said I should be more social with your friend group. That's not what I meant, and you know it. What did you mean then? Morgan stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I meant you should be friendly at parties, not take them on individual dates. They're not dates, I said calmly. They're just friends spending time together, like you and Trey. That is completely different. How? She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. For the first time in years, Morgan Sullivan, successful real estate agent, master manipulator, woman who always had the last word, was speechless. My phone chimed again. This time it was Rachel, the quiet one in Morgan's friend group, the one who worked at the art gallery and always seemed to be observing everything from the sidelines. Saw Jessica's post from coffee, her message read. Looked like fun. I never get to talk to you at parties with all the chaos. Maybe we could grab dinner sometime. I know this great little Italian place. I showed the message to Morgan, whose face was now completely white. 3 of your friends want to spend time with me, I said. Isn't that nice? You always said they liked me. Eric, this isn't funny. I'm not laughing. Morgan sank back into her chair, suddenly looking smaller than her usual commanding presence. What do you want from me? I want you to understand how it feels, I said, sitting down across from her. When your husband asks you to consider his feelings, and you laugh in his face, when you dismiss his concerns like they don't matter, when you prioritize an ex-boyfriend over your marriage. You did, last night. You literally laughed at me when I asked you to maybe talk to Trey less. She was quiet for a long moment, staring down at her wine glass. When she looked up, there were tears in her eyes. So this is revenge? This is me taking you at your word, I said. You won't cut ties with your ex just because I ask. Fine. I won't cut ties with your friends just because you ask. They're my friends, Eric. And Trey is your ex-boyfriend, but apparently that doesn't matter. My phone buzzed with another message, this time from Jessica. Had such a great time at coffee. Already looking forward to next week. You're so easy to talk to. Then Amanda. Outfit picked out for tomorrow. You're going to love it. Then Rachel. Let me know about dinner. I have so much I want to talk to you about. Morgan watched the notifications pile up, her face cycling through emotions I'd never seen before. Confusion, hurt, fear, and something that might have been recognition. They're all texting you, she said quietly. Apparently your friends find me good company. They're flirting with you. Are they? I looked at my phone, scrolling through the messages. Huh, I guess I wouldn't know. I'm just a controlling, insecure husband, remember? Morgan's wineglass trembled in her hand. What do you want me to do? I want you to understand that actions have consequences, I said. You made a choice last night. You chose Trey over me, chose your freedom over our marriage. Now I'm making the same choice. But they're my friends. And he's your ex-boyfriend. She set down her wineglass and put her head in her hands. This is insane. Is it? Or is it just fair? That night, Morgan went to bed early, claiming a headache. I stayed up late in my office, responding to messages from Jessica, Amanda, and Rachel. 3 women who had been on the periphery of my life for years, who had always been friendly at parties but never crossed the line because I was married. But if Morgan could maintain an emotional relationship with her ex-boyfriend, if she could laugh at my concerns and dismiss my feelings, then maybe it was time to explore some of those peripheral relationships myself. Jessica wanted to know about my work, asking detailed questions about my latest consulting projects, and actually listening to the answers. Amanda sent me photos of cocktails she was considering for our drinks date, asking my opinion like it mattered. Rachel shared an article about a new art exhibition, saying it reminded her of a conversation we'd had months ago at a dinner party. They were paying attention to me in ways Morgan hadn't in years. As I finally headed to bed, I found Morgan still awake, staring at the ceiling. Are you really going to have drinks with Amanda tomorrow? She asked quietly. Yes. And dinner with Rachel? Probably. And coffee with Jessica again next week? Definitely. She was quiet for a long moment. What if I asked you not to? I turned to look at her in the darkness. Would you cut contact with Trey if I asked you to? Another long silence. I didn't think so, I said, and rolled over to go to sleep. The next evening, I met Amanda at Elevation, the trendy rooftop bar downtown that had just opened to rave reviews. She was already there when I arrived, looking stunning in a black dress that hugged her curves and heels that made her legs go on for miles. She'd claimed the perfect spot, a high-top table with a view of the city lights, and, more importantly, a clear sightline to the entrance where anyone walking in would see us immediately. Eric. She stood up and hugged me, her arms lingering around my neck just long enough to make it clear this wasn't a casual friendly meet-up. You look incredible. I love that shirt on you. It was just a navy button-down, nothing special, but the way Amanda said it made me feel like I'd stepped off a magazine cover. You look amazing, I said, and meant it. Amanda had always been the flashy one in Morgan's friend group, the one who posted Instagram stories from every trendy restaurant and nightclub in the city, but up close, away from the group dynamic, she was actually engaging company. I already ordered us drinks, she said, gesturing to 2 craft cocktails garnished with herbs and fancy ice cubes. The bartender recommended these. I told him I was trying to impress someone special. We settled into our seats, and Amanda immediately pulled out her phone. Selfie? She asked, leaning close enough that her perfume enveloped me. This place is so photogenic. Before I could object, she'd snapped several photos of us, our heads close together, drinks in frame, the city lights twinkling behind us. She scrolled through them, selecting the best one. Perfect, she said, typing rapidly. Night out with this gorgeous man. Some people know how to show a girl a good time. Date night to city views. They're lucky me. She tagged me and hit post, then set her phone face up on the table where we could both see the notifications start rolling in immediately. Amanda, I said, that's going to cause problems. Good, she said, taking a sip of her cocktail and smiling wickedly. Maybe Morgan will finally realize what she's been taking for granted. My phone started buzzing almost immediately. Text messages, Instagram notifications, missed calls. I could see Morgan's name appearing repeatedly on the screen. Aren't you going to answer? Amanda asked, nodding toward my phone. No, I said, turning it face down. I'm having drinks with a beautiful woman. It would be rude to spend the evening on my phone. Amanda's smile could have powered the city lights behind us. God, you're smooth. Morgan is an idiot if she doesn't see what she has. We talked for hours about her job at the marketing firm, my consulting work, places we wanted to travel, movies we'd both loved. Amanda was funnier than I'd realized, with a sharp wit hidden behind her Instagram-perfect exterior. She asked thoughtful questions and actually listened to the answers, something I'd forgotten was possible in conversation. Can I tell you something? She said as we ordered our third round of drinks. I've had a crush on you since the first time Morgan brought you to one of our girls' nights. That was 5 years ago. I know. She reached across the table and took my hand, her fingers intertwining with mine. I kept thinking, if I were married to you, I'd never let you out of my sight. You're funny and smart and actually interesting, unlike most of the guys we meet. Her thumb traced circles on my palm, and I found myself not pulling away. Morgan doesn't see it, Amanda continued. She treats you like an accessory, something pretty to bring to parties but not really pay attention to. She's going through a lot with work, I said, though I wasn't sure why I was defending her. We're all going through a lot with work, Amanda said firmly. That's not an excuse to ignore your husband and flirt with your ex-boyfriend. She squeezed my hand. You deserve better, Eric. You deserve someone who sees how amazing you are. As if on cue, my phone lit up with another call from Morgan. Amanda glanced at it, then back at me. She's persistent. I'll give her that, she said. But where was all this attention when you weren't having drinks with her friend? She had a point. We stayed until the bar closed, talking and laughing and drinking expensive cocktails while my phone continued its steady stream of notifications. Amanda posted several more photos throughout the night, us laughing over drinks, a shot of our hands intertwined on the table, a mirror selfie in the bathroom where she looked gorgeous and I looked happier than I had in months. Each post garnered dozens of likes and comments from mutual friends, creating a social media trail that would be impossible for Morgan to ignore. When I finally walked Amanda to her car, she turned to face me in the dim parking garage, stepping close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from her skin. I had the best time tonight, she said, her hands resting on my chest. When can we do this again? Soon, I heard myself saying. She stood on her tiptoes and kissed my cheek, lingering just long enough that it felt like more than a friendly goodbye. Text me when you get home safe, okay? I worry about you. When was the last time Morgan had worried about me getting home safe? The drive home was surreal, my phone continuing to buzz with notifications and missed calls. I felt like I was living someone else's life, the version of Eric Sullivan who was desired, who was pursued, who was worth fighting for. I pulled into my driveway at 1:30 a.m. to find every light in the house blazing. Morgan was waiting in the living room, still fully dressed, her laptop open to Amanda's Instagram feed. We need to talk, she said the moment I walked through the door. It's late, Morgan. We can talk tomorrow. No, we're talking now. She stood up, and I could see she'd been crying. Her perfectly applied makeup was smudged, her hair disheveled. What the hell is this? She turned her laptop toward me, showing Amanda's Instagram story from the evening, a compilation of all our photos set to romantic music, ending with the text, "Best date ever." It was drinks between friends, I said. Friends don't hold hands across the table, Eric. Or friends don't post date night hashtags. Don't they? I pulled out my phone and scrolled to the photos Trey had posted over the past month. Pictures from his weekend trip to the mountains, his new apartment, his promotion at work. And in the comments of every single post, Morgan's name appeared with flirty responses and inside jokes. You've been commenting on all of Trey's posts, I said, showing her the screen. Heart emojis, inside jokes, wish I was there, comments. How is that different? That's completely different. How? She stared at me, her mouth opening and closing like she was trying to find words that didn't exist. Because, she finally said, Trey and I have history. We understand each other. And Amanda and I are building understanding now. She's my friend, Eric. And he's your ex-boyfriend, Morgan. We stood in our living room, facing each other like opponents in a boxing ring, both breathing hard from the emotional sparring. Is this what you want? She asked quietly. To destroy our marriage to prove a point? I want you to understand what it feels like, I said, to watch your spouse prioritize someone else, to have your concerns dismissed and laughed at, to feel like you're not important enough to fight for. I never said you weren't important. You didn't have to say it. You showed me. My phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. Home safe. Thank you for the most amazing night. Can't wait to see you again soon. Morgan saw the notification, and her face crumpled. They're all going to see these posts, she whispered. Everyone we know is going to think you're cheating on me. Are you cheating on me with Trey? Of course not. Then I'm not cheating on you with Amanda. But even as I said it, I wondered if that was entirely true. The line between emotional affair and friendship was blurrier than I'd expected, and tonight had felt dangerously close to crossing it. This has to stop, Morgan said. Does it? Why? Because I'm asking you to. I looked at my wife, really looked at her. Her designer clothes, her perfect hair, her beautiful face twisted with an emotion I'd never seen before. For the first time in our marriage, Morgan looked vulnerable. You know what you have to do, I said. She stared at me for a long moment, understanding passing between us like an electric current. I can't, she whispered. Then neither can I. I walked past her toward the stairs, leaving her standing in our living room, surrounded by the evidence of her husband's evening with another woman. As I brushed my teeth, my phone buzzed with one final notification. Rachel had messaged, Saw the photos from tonight. You two looked so happy. When are we doing dinner? I have the perfect place in mind. I smiled at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. This was just getting started. 3 days later, I met Rachel at Osteria Luna, a small Italian restaurant tucked away in the arts district that I'd never heard of but immediately loved. Unlike the trendy rooftop bar where Amanda had chosen to make a statement, this place was intimate and romantic, with dim lighting and small tables that forced you to lean close to hear each other speak. Rachel was already seated when I arrived, looking elegant in a way that was completely different from Amanda's flashy style or Jessica's casual beauty. She wore a simple black dress and delicate jewelry, her dark hair pulled back to show off the graceful line of her neck. You found it, she said, standing to hug me. Her embrace was warm but brief, more sophisticated than Amanda's lingering touches or Jessica's obvious flirtation. This place is incredible, I said, looking around at the exposed brick walls lined with local artwork. How did you know about it? The owner is one of my artists, she said, settling back into her seat. Marco's been trying to get me to bring someone special here for months. I told him tonight was the night. Someone special. The words hung in the air between us, loaded with implication. We ordered wine, a bottle of Chianti that Rachel selected after a brief, knowledgeable conversation with the sommelier, and settled into the kind of conversation I'd forgotten was possible. Rachel asked about my work, but not in the polite, surface-level way people usually did. She wanted to understand the technical challenges, the creative problem-solving aspects, the satisfaction of building something from nothing. I've always been fascinated by people who can create order from chaos, she said, twirling pasta around her fork with practiced elegance. That's what you do, isn't it? You take these massive, complicated systems and make them work harmoniously. I never thought of it that way. It's like art, in a way, taking disparate elements and combining them into something beautiful and functional. She was right, and the fact that she understood something about my work that Morgan had never bothered to learn made my chest tighten with an emotion I couldn't quite name. What about you? I asked. How did you get into gallery management? I wanted to be an artist originally, she said, smiling ruefully. Spent 4 years in art school before I realized I had better taste than talent. But I loved being around art, around artists, so the gallery was a natural fit. Do you ever regret not pursuing it? Sometimes. But then I see what I've built at the gallery, the artists I've helped launch, the collections I've curated, and I realize I found my calling after all, just not the one I expected. We talked about art, about travel, about books we'd both read, and movies that had moved us. Rachel had opinions about everything, but she expressed them thoughtfully, asking for my perspective and actually listening to my responses. It was the kind of intellectual intimacy I hadn't experienced in years. Can I ask you something personal? She said as we shared a dessert that Marco had insisted we try. Of course. Are you happy? The question caught me off guard. Not how's married life, or how are things with Morgan? Just the simple, direct question that cut through all the social pleasantries. That's complicated, I said. Is it? I mean, I know marriage is complicated, but happiness seems pretty straightforward. Either you are or you aren't. I thought about it, really thought about it, while Rachel waited patiently for my answer. I thought I was, I said finally. For a long time I thought I was. But lately you've been remembering what it feels like to have someone actually see you, she finished. How did you know? Because I've been watching you at parties for 3 years, Eric. I've seen how Morgan treats you, how she dismisses you, or talks over you, or acts like you're not even there, and I've seen your face when it happens. She reached across the table and covered my hand with hers. You light up when someone pays attention to you, really pays attention, like you're surprised anyone would find you interesting. Morgan found me interesting once. Maybe, or maybe she found the idea of you interesting. The successful IT consultant, the stable husband, the perfect accessory for her perfect life. Her thumb traced across my knuckles, and I didn't pull away. But did she ever really see you? The way you think, the way you solve problems, the way you care about things? Did she ever ask you about your dreams or your fears or what makes you feel alive? I couldn't answer because we both knew the truth. You deserve better, Rachel said quietly. You deserve someone who sees all of you and loves what they see. When we finally left the restaurant, it was nearly midnight. Rachel had insisted on taking a photo of us with Marco, who treated us like old friends and made me promise to come back soon. She posted it to Instagram with the caption, "Perfect evening with perfect company at the most romantic restaurant in the city. Some conversations change everything. Santarnerm, dinner date, perfect night. Grateful." Walking to our cars, Rachel slipped her arm through mine, leaning against me as we navigated the cobblestone street in her heels. I had the most wonderful time tonight, she said when we reached her car. I feel like I got to see the real Eric Sullivan, the one Morgan never bothers to look for. She turned to face me, standing close enough that I could see the flecks of gold in her brown eyes. I know this is complicated, she said. I know you're married, and I know she's my friend. But Eric, I can't pretend I don't have feelings for you. I can't pretend I haven't been hoping for a chance like this for years. Rachel, I'm not asking you to make any decisions tonight, she said, placing her hand on my chest. I'm just asking you to remember that you have options, that you don't have to settle for someone who doesn't appreciate what she has. She stood on her tiptoes and kissed my cheek, her lips lingering just long enough to make my heart race. Text me when you get home, she said. I want to know you're safe. The drive home was a blur of city lights and racing thoughts. My phone sat silent in the cup holder. No frantic calls from Morgan this time. No angry texts demanding explanations. Either she was getting used to my new social life, or she was planning something. I found out which when I pulled into my driveway. Morgan's car was there, but so was another one I recognized. Trey's black BMW, parked right behind hers like a statement. I sat in my car for a moment, staring at the two vehicles, understanding exactly what message was being sent. When I walked into the house, I found them in the living room, Morgan curled up on the couch next to Trey, a bottle of wine open on the coffee table, the TV playing some romantic comedy I'd never seen. They looked up when I entered, and I saw something in Morgan's eyes I'd never seen before, defiance mixed with guilt, like a teenager caught sneaking out but determined not to apologize. Eric, she said, her voice artificially bright, you remember Trey? Of course. I nodded at him, noting how he'd made himself comfortable in my house, his shoes kicked off, his arms stretched along the back of the couch behind my wife. How was dinner? Morgan asked, and I could hear the edge in her voice. Lovely. Rachel's excellent company. So I saw on Instagram. She picked up her phone and showed me Rachel's post, which already had dozens of likes and comments. Very romantic. It was. Trey cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable with the tension crackling between Morgan and me. Maybe I should go, he said, starting to stand. No, Morgan said quickly, grabbing his arm. Stay. We were having such a nice time catching up. She looked at me challengingly, waiting for me to object, to demand that her ex-boyfriend leave our house, to finally be the controlling husband she'd accused me of being. Instead, I smiled. Don't let me interrupt, I said. I'm going to bed. Early morning tomorrow, Jessica and I are having breakfast before her open house. I headed for the stairs, leaving them sitting together on our couch, and heard Morgan call after me. Eric, wait. But I was already gone, climbing the stairs to our bedroom, where I would sleep alone while my wife entertained her ex-boyfriend downstairs. As I got ready for bed, my phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. Thank you for the most perfect evening. Can't stop thinking about our conversation. Sweet dreams. Then Amanda. Saw the dinner pics? You two looked so happy together. When is it my turn again? Then Jessica. Can't wait for breakfast tomorrow. I have so much to tell you. 3 women who wanted my time, my attention, my company. 3 women who saw something in me worth pursuing. Downstairs, I could hear Morgan and Trey talking in low voices, their laughter drifting up through the floorboards. I turned off my phone and went to sleep, dreaming of art galleries and Italian restaurants and women who asked if I was happy. The next morning, I woke up alone. Morgan's side of the bed hadn't been slept in, and when I went downstairs, I found a note on the kitchen counter. Stayed at Amanda's. Need space to think. We'll talk later. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd stayed at the apartment of the woman who'd been posting photos of her date nights with Morgan's husband. I made coffee and checked my phone. 17 missed calls from Morgan between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m., along with a stream of increasingly frantic text messages. Where did you go last night? Trey left. We need to talk. I know you're awake. Answer your phone. This is insane, Eric. We're both acting crazy. I'm scared we're going to destroy everything. Please call me back. But I had breakfast plans. Jessica was waiting at the diner on Maple Street, looking fresh and beautiful despite the early hour. She wore jeans and a soft pink sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail that made her look younger and somehow more intimate than her usual polished appearance. You look tired, she said, studying my face as I slid into the booth across from her. Rough night? You could say that. She reached across the table and took my hand, her touch warm and comforting. Want to talk about it? I told her about coming home to find Trey in my living room, about Morgan's note, about the missed calls and desperate texts. Jessica listened without interruption, her thumb tracing soothing circles on my palm. I'm sorry, she said when I finished. That must have been awful. The weird part is, I wasn't even angry. I was almost relieved. Relieved? Like finally, the pretense was over. She wasn't hiding behind just friends anymore. She was making her choice clear. Jessica squeezed my hand. What does that mean for you? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Morgan's name on the screen. Answer it, Jessica said. I want to hear what she has to say. I swiped to accept. Morning, Morgan. Thank God. Her voice was strained, exhausted. I've been trying to reach you all night. I was sleeping. Some of us don't stay up all night entertaining ex-boyfriends. Eric, that's not what happened. What did happen? A long pause. We talked, about us, about you, about everything that's been going wrong. And nothing happened. He left around midnight. I slept on the couch. Jessica rolled her eyes and mouthed liar across the table. Where are you now? Morgan asked. Having breakfast with Jessica. Another pause, longer this time. Eric, this has to stop. Does it? Yes. We're destroying our marriage, and for what? To prove some stupid point? What point would that be? That you can hurt me as much as I hurt you. I looked across the table at Jessica, who was watching me with concern and something deeper, something that looked like love. Is that what you think this is about? I asked. Hurting you. Isn't it? No, Morgan. It's about remembering what it feels like to be wanted, to be appreciated, to have someone actually care about what I think and feel. Jessica smiled at that, squeezing my hand tighter. I care about what you think and feel, Morgan said, but her voice lacked conviction. When? When was the last time you asked me about my work? About my day? About anything that wasn't related to your needs, or your schedule, or your problems? Silence on the other end of the line. I can't remember either, I said. Eric, please, come home. Let's talk about this properly. I am home, I said, looking at Jessica. I'm exactly where I want to be. I hung up and set my phone face down on the table. Jessica's eyes were bright with unshed tears. Did you mean that? Every word. She leaned across the table and kissed me. Not on the cheek this time, but full on the lips, soft and sweet and full of promise. When we broke apart, she was smiling. I've wanted to do that for so long, she whispered. Why didn't you? Because you were married. Because I respected that, even if Morgan didn't respect you. My phone was buzzing with notifications, more calls from Morgan, texts from Amanda asking if I was okay, a message from Rachel saying she'd seen Morgan's Instagram story from the night before and wanted to make sure I was handling everything well. They all care about you, Jessica said, noticing the stream of messages. Amanda, Rachel, me, we all see what Morgan refuses to see. Which is? That you're incredible, that any woman would be lucky to have you, that she's an idiot for taking you for granted. She pulled out her phone and opened Instagram. I want to post something. Is that okay? I nodded, and she snapped a photo of us in the booth, my hand covering hers on the table, both of us smiling like we shared a secret. "Finally found my person," she typed. "Some things are worth waiting for. Dershire and happiness worth it. We're at our new beginnings." She tagged me and hit post, then set her phone aside and focused entirely on me. "What happens now?" she asked. "I don't know," I admitted. "This is all new territory for me." "That's okay. We'll figure it out together." We spent the morning talking about everything and nothing, her dreams of opening her own real estate firm, my ideas for expanding my consulting business, places we wanted to travel, things we wanted to try. It was the kind of conversation married couples were supposed to have, the kind I'd stopped having with Morgan years ago without even realizing it. When we finally left the diner, Jessica walked me to my car and kissed me again, longer this time, her arms around my neck and her body pressed against mine. "I know this is complicated," she said. "I know there are going to be consequences. But Eric, I'm falling in love with you, and I think you might be falling in love with me too." She was right, and the realization should have terrified me. Instead, it felt like coming alive after years of sleepwalking. "What about Morgan?" I asked. "What about your friendship?" "What about it? She made her choice when she chose Trey over you. Now I'm making mine." That afternoon, the consequences began. Morgan showed up at my office, her eyes red from crying, her perfect composure finally cracked. "We need to talk," she said, standing in my doorway like a ghost of the woman I'd married. "I'm working, Morgan." "I know about Jessica." "What about her?" "I know you're sleeping with her." "Am I?" She stepped into my office and closed the door behind her. "Are you?" I looked at my wife, really looked at her. She was still beautiful, still successful, still the woman who'd turned heads when she walked into a room, but she was also the woman who'd laughed at my feelings, who'd prioritized her ex-boyfriend over her husband, who'd taken me for granted until I wasn't available anymore. "Not yet," I said, "but I'm thinking about it." The words hit her like a physical blow. She sank into the chair across from my desk, her face pale and shocked. "How did we get here?" she whispered. "You laughed at me," I said simply. "I asked you to consider my feelings, and you laughed in my face?" "I was defensive. I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did. You meant every word. You thought my concerns were ridiculous, my feelings were invalid, and my marriage was something you could take for granted. And now you're going to destroy it to prove a point?" "I'm not destroying anything, Morgan. I'm just not cutting ties with people who actually want to spend time with me." She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her trying to find the words that would fix this, that would put us back in the box where she held all the power, and I accepted whatever scraps of attention she was willing to give me. "What do you want?" she asked finally. "I want you to understand what you've lost," I said. "I want you to feel what I felt when you dismissed me like I didn't matter. I understand now. I get it. Can we please just fix this?" But it was too late for that, and we both knew it. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. "Thinking about you, can't wait to see you tonight." Morgan saw the notification and her face crumpled. "Please don't do this," she whispered. "Do what?" "Choose her over me." "Why not? You chose Trey over me." "That's different." "How, Morgan? How is it different?" She couldn't answer because there was no answer. The double standard she'd been living by was finally exposed, and she had no defense for it. "Because I love you," she said desperately. "Because we're married. Because we have a life together." "Do we? Or do we just live in the same house and share the same last name?" She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks, her perfect facade completely destroyed. "What can I do?" she asked. "Tell me what to do to fix this." I looked at her, this beautiful, broken woman who'd been my wife for 6 years, and felt something I hadn't expected. Pity. "You can't fix this, Morgan. You can't undo laughing at me. You can't undo choosing Trey over me. You can't undo taking me for granted for years. So that's it? You're just going to throw away our marriage?" "I'm not throwing anything away. I'm just not fighting for someone who wouldn't fight for me." She sat there crying while I went back to my work, and eventually she left. That evening, I had dinner with Jessica, Amanda, and Rachel together for the first time. We met at a trendy restaurant downtown, and I felt like a king holding court with 3 beautiful, intelligent women who all wanted my attention. They posted photos throughout the evening, group shots, candid moments, pictures of me laughing and looking happier than I had in years. The social media evidence was overwhelming. Eric Sullivan was moving on, and he wasn't alone. By the time we left the restaurant, Morgan's entire social circle knew exactly what was happening, and there was nothing she could do to stop it.